If you believe trust is the foundation of every marriage. If you've ever ignored a small doubt, because love felt safer than suspicion. If you've ever sensed something change before you could explain it, then this story is for you. Subscribe to the channel right now, because here, we don't just tell stories. We uncover the quiet moments that change lives forever. And sometimes, the loudest betrayals begin in complete silence. No one imagines their life will split into before and after beneath neon lights and the sharp echo of bowling pins crashing into polished wood. But that Friday night at Maple Grove Lanes was not just another family outing. It was the night Emily Harper felt something shift, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like a crack forming beneath smooth glass. And once you see a crack, you can never pretend it isn't there. Emily had planned the evening carefully. She had circled the date on her calendar 2 weeks earlier. She had texted Daniel reminders. She had told the kids to finish homework early. She had even worn the soft blue sweater Daniel once said made her eyes look brighter. 12 years of marriage does something subtle to love. It doesn't always disappear. It settles. It becomes practical. Conversations turn into schedules. Passion turns into partnership. Late-night whispers become early alarms. Emily and Daniel weren't unhappy. They worked steady. And steady can look a lot like safe. Their children, Liam and Sophie, burst through the bowling alley doors first, their laughter echoing against the polished lanes. Lane 6 lit up on the screen above them. They argued over who would go first, their sneakers squeaking against the glossy floor. Emily followed with a smile, the kind of smile that carries both joy and quiet exhaustion. Daniel walked beside her, carrying rental shoes in one hand and juggling playful jokes with the kids in the other. From a distance, they looked perfect. But Emily noticed something small. Every time Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket, his laughter lagged half a second behind everyone else's. Just enough to feel delayed. He would glance down briefly, type quickly, slide it back into his pocket. Work, he had said earlier that week. A new project. Tight deadlines. And Emily believed him. Because she always had. Trust had never been difficult for her. Until now. The first game began with gutter balls and exaggerated groans. Liam celebrated every knockdown pin like he'd won a championship. Sophie spun dramatically before each throw, insisting it improved accuracy. Daniel clapped. He cheered. He smiled. But when Emily looked closely, really looked, something felt slightly off. He seemed present but not fully there. Like a man standing in two places at once. When Emily bowled a strike, Daniel wrapped his arm around her shoulders in a familiar gesture. She leaned into him instinctively. It should have felt warm. It did. But it was shorter than she remembered. Lighter. Almost distracted. And for the first time, Emily wondered, when did our small touches start feeling rehearsed? Halfway through the second game, Emily volunteered to grab drinks. She needed a moment to breathe. The scent of popcorn and soda syrup filled the air. Teenagers laughed near the arcade machines. A birthday party sang loudly 2 lanes over. Normal sounds. Normal life. She stood in line, scrolling briefly through her phone, telling herself she was overthinking everything. Marriage has seasons, she reminded herself. Not every season blooms. Some are quieter. Some are heavier. She picked up the drinks and turned. And that's when she saw him. Daniel stood near lane 7. Closer to someone than casual distance required. The woman beside him had dark blonde hair resting softly over her sweater. Her posture was relaxed, comfortable, familiar. Emily slowed without realizing she had. Daniel leaned slightly toward her. His face looked different. Softer. Attentive. The kind of softness Emily hadn't seen directed at her in months. The woman laughed quietly at something he said. Not loudly. Not flirtatiously, but intimately. Daniel held her gaze a fraction too long. They weren't touching. There was no obvious boundary crossed. But the air between them felt private, charged, meaningful. Emily's chest tightened. She told herself not to stare. But her eyes refused to look away. And then, Daniel saw her. His posture changed instantly. He straightened. The softness vanished. The woman stepped back politely, offering a nod before turning toward another lane. The moment dissolved. But the feeling didn't. Emily walked back slowly. Her hands didn't shake. Her face didn't change. Years of motherhood had trained her well. She placed the drinks down. Met Daniel's eyes. "Who was that?" she asked lightly. "Casual. Controlled. For the children." Daniel answered too quickly. "Claire. She works at my office." Small world, huh? Too fast. Too smooth. Coincidence. Emily nodded. Smiled. Told herself she trusted him. Told herself she was being dramatic. The game resumed. Pins crashed. Kids cheered. But inside Emily, something had gone quiet. And silence can be louder than suspicion. Streetlights stretched into long golden lines outside the car window. The kids argued about scores in the back seat. Daniel hummed along to the radio. Normal. Everything looked normal. But the silence between songs felt heavier than usual. Emily stared out the window and replayed the image. Daniel leaning in. Claire laughing softly. The softness in his eyes. It wasn't the presence of another woman that hurt. It was the way he looked at her. That expression used to belong to Emily. Later, the house fell quiet. Children tucked in. Dishes done. Lights dimmed. Emily lay awake beside Daniel. She listened to his breathing. Steady. Unaware. She remembered when their love felt urgent. When he used to reach for her hand without thinking. When conversations stretched long past midnight. Somewhere along the years, routine replaced wonder. Responsibility dulled spontaneity. Had she changed too? Had motherhood reshaped her into someone less interesting? Less exciting? She hated the thought. But it arrived anyway. Daniel shifted in his sleep and turned slightly away. A small movement. Yet it felt symbolic. Emily stared at the ceiling. It could mean nothing. It could mean everything. The hardest part wasn't proof. It was uncertainty. She didn't want to accuse. Didn't want to become suspicious. Didn't want to poison something that might still be whole. But her instincts whispered something simple. This didn't begin tonight. Tonight was just the first time you saw it. She closed her eyes and made a quiet decision. She would not explode. She would not confront without clarity. She would watch. She would listen. She would protect her family quietly if she had to. Because cracks, once visible, cannot be unseen. And under those neon lights, something had begun. If you're still watching, comment trust below. Because what happens next will test the very meaning of it. If this story made you question how well we really know the people we love, hit subscribe and stay with us for the next chapter. Because sometimes the quietest cracks create the loudest endings.